It's a first. It's an absolute first here for the Kaufman Corner podcast. With you, as always, the good doctor, Dr. Rany Jazayerli. My name is Soren Petro from Sports Radio 810 WHB as we talk playoff baseball, Royals playoff baseball. Oh, Rany is so giddy. He's so giddy. Cole Ragans dominates today, even with MJ Melendez having a faux pas out in left field. We'll talk about that. He did leave after 6 with cramps. Is that a problem moving forward? Royals offense only got one run, even with Vinnie Pasquantino back. Was Michael Massey right call in the leadoff? Bobby Witt Jr. coming through with a big RBI, the only RBI. Matt Quintero's bullpen decisions. Maikel Garcia, a couple of SBs. He scored the only run of the game. Lucas Erceg slammed the door, and we'll take a look ahead at Seth Lugo versus Zach Eflin in Game 2. We're doing it right now on the Kaufman Corner podcast.
This is the Kaufman Corner podcast, the most in-depth analysis of the Kansas City Royals, breaking down the Royals like no one else can. Kaufman Corner is hosted by Rany Jazayerli and Soren Petro. Rany is a co-founder of Baseball Prospectus, author of Rany on the Royals, and former columnist for Grantland, The Ringer, and The Athletic. Soren is the award-winning afternoon drive host of the program on Sports Radio 810 WHB in Kansas City. Kaufman Corner is proudly brought to you by Gann Asphalt and Concrete, Kansas City's nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor, making parking lot problems disappear in Kansas City since 1994. Free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews, and every project comes with a written warranty. Find them online at GannAsphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, one contractor, all things parking lot. Now, here are your hosts, Rany Jazayerli and Soren Petro.
Thank you, Curtis. We do appreciate it. It is the playoff edition of Kaufman Corner, and the Royals are winning the very first playoff edition of Kaufman Corner. Rany, did you ever doubt it?
Not really. No, I didn't. And let me tell you why. Because this morning I got a text from a friend of the show, Alex Robinson, who I watched the one and only wild card game with 10 years ago at Kauffman Stadium. But like me, lives here in Chicago. And I hadn't heard from him in a direct text in a while. But he had to send me a very important message. He went to Starbucks this morning here in Chicago. He needed to use the restroom. He asked for the code to enter the men's room at a Starbucks in Chicago. What was the code? 1738. I'm like, are you in Kansas City? He's like, no, I'm in Chicago. I'm like, we're winning today. We won today. So
if people don't remember, 1738 was the little number that Moustakas and Hosmer and all the guys would work into everything they did.
It was from a Fetty Wap song, yeah. I believe, and it was basically the slogan of the 2015 Kansas City Royals. So the odds of that, there are no coincidences, Soren. So I felt good, and I told you on the show on Sunday night that. Now that the Royals are in, I feel like we're playing with house money, and I feel less stressed about the playoffs than I did watching them almost collapse, playing the Nationals last, 1 week ago today. And I will tell you, watching the game today, that was true up until about the 7th inning. I was pretty chill. Right. And then they had a lead and 9 outs to go. And we didn't have Herrera and Davis and Holland. We had Bubic and Erceg and somehow Sam Long coming in the 7th inning. So yeah, the nerves were there. But I'll tell you, even in the bottom of the 9th, I felt less stressed today with the 1-run lead than I did with the 1-run lead against the Nationals a week ago. Because look, no matter what happens, they've made a good showing of themselves. This is supposed to be fun. And that was a fun game. It was tight. It was crisp. It was 2 hours and 25 minutes. The clock makes such a huge difference with just the rhythm of the sport. You can have a game that's excruciatingly close, but without the excruciating delays from one pitch to the next, right? The game was moving and simultaneously stressful. You can't say enough about the pitching, because it certainly wasn't the offense that carried them. Wasn't the defense, the way MJ played in left field, played that ball. But they just pitched their hearts out. And what a fun game. It was a blast today.
Yeah, it was. And, I'm with you in the sense that I wasn't really as stressed as I thought I might be in those circumstances because I felt like it was totally in hand. I didn't think the Royals were going to score many runs, but Cole Ragans was dominant. I really wasn't even that stressed. I guess maybe part of it is what you said. It's like I do really feel like this is house money. And so if they don't go anywhere, maybe that's what kept my stress level down. But it really felt like they had the Orioles in check. And I got a bit of a vibe too. We talked to Brian McRae on the program today. We went late today till 7:30 with the show, and we had Brian McRae on from Baltimore, and he said he was walking around talking to people from Baltimore, and they're like, "Yeah, we just need to get the season over and get back to work. Like this year's been a disappointment. We should have won the division. We've already blown it." And I think that is oftentimes the fans reflect somewhat the mentality of the team. And I think there's a little bit of like the team's like, okay, we're not going to get there. And maybe that's what it was. There was no juice out of Baltimore. I mean, Burns was dealing. I was the most nervous I got was when Burns got his first strikeout and he took the cock of the walk, around the mound. And I was like, dude, he's feeling it. Like he's giving the look up into the crowd. Everybody's seeing what I'm doing here. I was like, he's dealing today. They're not going to get to him and knock him around. Ragans is going to have to match him, but he went out there and matched him. And even when they got to the bullpen, even when they got to, Bubic put a couple of guys on late, I really didn't feel that bad then. And when he calmly went and got Lucas Erceg and said, we're going for 4 outs, I was like, I'm not upset about anything that the man has done.
Yeah, no, Quintero managed. I mean, again, the one thing that made us all pause and be like, what's going on here is Sam Long in the 7th inning. And then we found out a few minutes later that Cole Ragans came out after 80 pitches because he had cramps in his leg, right? Strange because Tarek Skubal in Detroit had the exact same problem. Came out of their game early as well with kind of the same thing. But there was a reason I would have stuck with Ragans for the 7th inning if he had been healthy. And even without him there, I mean, Sam Long it scared me because he's exactly the kind of guy that you worry about blowing a game in the middle innings. To me, in some ways, that might have been the most important inning to get out of. He was 3-1 on the first batter, Adley Rutschman, and then he got Rutschman to hit a lazy fly ball. And that, to me, that right there, the angst sort of, decreased significantly, got the leadoff hitter out. And once he got the Bubic and Erceg, I'm like, this, we're in a good spot. Bubic, he walked a batter, which is rare for him. It was a very close 3-2 pitch. And then he gave up a single, and he went straight to Erceg. He's not messing around. And then, Erceg in the 9th, also, a 3-2 pitch was called ball 4 to lead off the inning. And that's scary. And especially was a pitch that was probably outside, but also it was a very large strike zone today. And that was frustrating. But then he gets a 2-2 pitch, and Salvador Perez 3 years ago, that's ball 3, even maybe last year. But they have worked with him about framing, and specifically the low pitches. He frames them so much better than he used to, and he got a strike 3 call, and that changed the complexion of the inning. And look, I don't like the fact that you can essentially cheat your way to strikes. I mean, I fully support an automated strike zone the second the technology is ready, but until the game changes, until the umpires are automatic, you play to win the game. And they stole a strikeout there. And from that point on, I felt pretty good. And I mean, you never know what's going to happen to a closer in a playoff game, right? You never know the level of stress just goes, to such a level. But Erceg was throwing, like my first concern was, is he going to throw strikes? Because the number one thing you worry about is a guy just can't find the strike zone because of the pressure on him. That 3-2 pitch notwithstanding, he was throwing strikes, he was dealing, and then that nasty changeup that he threw twice, to finish off the game. It's like, we have a closer. I mean, maybe this isn't HDH, but this bullpen, something I would not have said 3 months ago. I have, a fair amount of confidence, a 1-run lead with 3 innings left, that the Royals will hold on, and they did.
Yeah, I think we had, who was it here said, this was the first time. Yeah, here it was, Daddy 18. It was the first game I felt like here comes the bullpen and it's getting shut down. And that's what they built. That's what they've earned. Coming down the stretch run of the season is they have been great as a bullpen, and now you can have confidence in them. And that is like, I was like, okay, great. They're going to get a 7th inning out of Ragans, and then they're going to go Bubic, and they're going to go Erceg. I was like, bang, bang. Here we go. 8-9 is set. Well, when Sam Long had to come in, I wasn't really worried. Sam Long's been good too.
Yeah, I mean, he's been good. He just hasn't been dominant, and his command has been iffy. That's why I was worried. You get the leadoff hitter on, and all sorts of stuff can happen. And so getting
When
that
you went
leadoff,
1-2-3, are you like, this game is over?
I mean, I felt a lot. I'm like, okay, we just you remember 2014, 2015, how we all lived in mortal terror of the sixth inning, right? It was like, here comes the sixth, and the reason was that baseball in general back then, and certainly Ned Yost, just could not accept the idea of pulling your starter before he completed 6 innings, as long as he was pitching well, right? And that was the culture of baseball up until about 2016, 2017, when it really started to change. The Guardians, then the Indians, in the following year, 2016, almost won the World Series using Andrew Miller in like their, in the middle innings, and their starters are going like 4 innings. And everyone's like, wait a minute, you can do that. So the 6th inning was what we lived in mortal terror of. Now, to me, it was the 7th inning, because it's that 1 inning between Lugo or Ragans, and giving you 6 solid innings, maybe even exceptional innings, and then Bubic and Erceg at the end. But yeah, once they got through the 7th, I'm like, okay, that was the scariest test that we're going to have in this game.
It doesn't look like the cramps are going to be a problem moving forward. He said he'd be good to go. They shut it down early because it's been a problem in the past. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, he may have gone out there and tried to gut through it where the bullpen from the first half of the season, right? They may have been like, listen, you got to go. Instead, they can bring him out and go ahead and put it to the bullpen. And let's also take a special note in the 5th inning when MJ Melendez played a fly ball, as poorly as you could possibly play it, and put Cole Ragans in a spot. He bared down and went strikeout.
Yeah, I mean, first off, I had a very strong feeling that MJ Melendez is going to have a big impact on the series. I just had no idea if it was going to be, a pinch hit home run to tie game, or, some horrible defensive adventure. Well, we got the horrible defensive adventure. And somehow it didn't cost them, right? Because a couple things to say. That came with 1 out, right? 1 out in the bottom of the 5th, still a tie game. The Royals hadn't scored yet. Double, a double, quote unquote, to left. And then Cedric Mullins then hits a line drive to center field. And I want to say something, that will easily get lost. Kyle Isbell played that very well, not in terms of just fielding the ball, but so much of it, of a play like that with a runner on base, when you're not going to catch the ball, there's a play acting that goes into it. And he played that ball, if you watch it, like he was going to catch it at first. And I don't know how well he sold it, but Mullins didn't score. He stopped at third, and that you obviously hesitated. Now, he probably wasn't looking backwards when the ball was hit, but he was watching his third base coach. His third base coach had to wait and see, was Isbell going to catch it? And so even though it dropped, Isbell was able, not with the fear of his arm or how quickly he got to the ball or anything, but simply by making the offense think he had a chance to catch it, to keep the runner from scoring, holding him at third base with 1 out. And then, the most important plate appearance of the game, Cole Ragans strikes out James McCann. Granted, the number 9 hitter, but a guy who can do some damage. He strikes him out on 3 pitches. And then he gets Gunnar Henderson. He didn't need a strikeout here, but he still needed an out. He struck out Gunnar Henderson, who hit, 44 or 37 home runs. Yeah, it was a 9-win shortstop, right? Like, he was 95% as good as Bobby Witt this year, 37 home runs. And, 364 on base, and he strikes him out. So you can't say enough about what Cole Ragans today was awesome.
Yes.
For the second start in a row, just like in Washington, he played 6 scoreless innings in a game where 1 run might have changed the outcome entirely. He could not afford to give up a single run. He didn't. And this is the thing that the Royals in 2014 and 2015 didn't have, right? They had the killer bullpen. 6 scoreless innings was not something you expected. Go back to 2014, 2015, 31 playoff games, right? The Royals won 22 of them. How many of those games do you think the Royals starter gave up 0 runs? Forget the number of innings. Just how many times did the Royals get a scoreless start in 2014 or 2015?
Probably none.
So it happened twice.
Okay.
One of them was a game you and I were at, the Game 6 of the World Series, Giordano Ventura, the 10-0 game, right?
Okay.
But at the same time, and they were up 7-0 early, and so he was kind of cruising from that point, right? The other one was actually Game 1 of the 2015 American League Championship Series. Edinson Volquez threw 6 scoreless against the Blue Jays. Right. You may remember he struck out Troy Tulowitzki with the bases loaded in 2 outs. He's the final batter of the game. And yes, this is an excuse for me to just relive those the 2014, 2015 Royals for a moment. And that was it, but that was a 3-0 game. And so that was, given the circumstances, probably the guttiest start the Royals had in all of 2014, 2015, was from Edinson Volquez. But this was 6 scoreless innings in a game that was scoreless until the 6th, and they won 1-0. The first 1-0 playoff victory in Royals history. The first start in Royals history in the playoffs where a starter didn't allow a run and struck out at least 7 batters. It's only, I think, the 6th scoreless start in Royals playoff history, and he struck out 8, didn't walk a batter. Nobody else has had a scoreless outing and struck out more than 5, I think. So just a hell of an outing.
We'll talk about the offense here in a minute. It was enough today, but is it enough moving forward? I'll also tell you we're brought to you by our friends at Gann Asphalt and Concrete. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, proudly serving the greater Kansas City area. Nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor, making parking lot problems disappear in Kansas City since 1994. Get your seal coating done now before the weather turns cold. Weekends are booking up fast. With free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews, and every project comes with a written warranty, Gann Asphalt keeps your parking lot safer and helps you and your business avoid unnecessary delays and costly expenses. Find Gann online at GannAsphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. Gann Asphalt and Concrete. One contractor, all things parking lot. All right, Rany, let's talk about the offense. I mean, it was enough to win, but they only scored 1 run. Vinnie Pasquantino's back. It may have been that the ball that Bobby Witt Jr. Drove in the run with, he doesn't get if Vinnie Pasquantino's not behind him. So that just mere presence may have been enough to get it done, but I don't know that 2 more runs over 2 games is going to be enough to send the Royals to New York. 1 run tomorrow, probably not going to be enough. I hope it is. But where should the level of concern be about the fact that the Royals barely scored more than the Orioles?
Yeah, I mean, talk about confirming our narratives. The fun thing about the playoffs is that things will happen in the playoffs that are completely in contradiction to what you saw over the 162 game regular season. Not this game, right? Because this game was exactly what we thought would happen for Royals, even in a Royals victory, right? That the offense still was dead on arrival. 1 run, the 1 run driven in by Bobby Witt, a hit with 2 outs and runners in scoring position, right? Bobby wasn't great today, but he was great when they needed him to be. I don't want to read too much into it because, look, Corbin Burnes is a stud. And, one of the things we talked about on Sunday, as I said, the Orioles need game 1 more than the Royals do because this is their one shot with an ace caliber pitcher. Corbin Burnes is probably the best starting pitcher the Royals will face in the playoffs, at least until the ALCS. All right. I mean, he was a former Cy Young winner who's at the top of his game. If they face the Yankees, Garrett Cole is certainly, that caliber, but is he 100% yet? I'm not 100% sure. Certainly nobody better than Corbin Burnes. They're going to see Zach Eflin tomorrow, who's basically, like I described him, kind of a slightly inferior version of Seth Lugo. A good pitcher, but hittable. He throws strikes, but he doesn't have the cutter that Burnes had today. So I don't want to read too much into one game against an ace, but still 1 run is, that's not going to work. They had no extra base hits. They had 4 batters above the minimum in the game. They had 31 batters come to the plate in 9 innings. They are the first team in playoff history, not Royals history, playoff MLB postseason history to win a playoff game with no extra base hits and only having 4 batters or fewer above the minimum. All right. So this is about as poor an offensive performance as you can have and still win a game. But I think they will be better. I mean, Vinny, he didn't have a hit in the game, but you know what? One thing that isn't affected by a sore thumb is your plate discipline. And he looked good in terms of his ability to tell balls from strikes, and he walked in the 9th. Like you said, his mere presence in the lineup forces them to take Bobby Witt a little more seriously. And I love having Michael Massey in the leadoff spot because it means the 4 best hitters in this lineup, really the only 4 guys I would say are at least average to above average major league hitters, Massey, Witt, Vinny, and Salvi, bat back to back to back to back. You want to cluster your 4 hitters together, hope that between them you can get a run. It worked out great that, Maikel Garcia was in the 9 spot actually, right? To give you that, extend the lineup. He was sort of the player of the game on offense. But
those are the little things about Pasquantino being back is that you now have a little more flexibility. Guys get pushed down and you've got better hitters. I mean, every spot below him gets better.
Yep.
Right. So that means 3 gets better. So does 4 through 9 because you're pushing everybody back one. And so
Absolutely.
I can't stress enough. We talked about it like, was this going to be a joke? And I'm like, it's not a joke if they lose Vinnie Pasquantino. And I stand by that. And I think just his presence does so much for this lineup. You do like Massey in the leadoff, even though he was first pitch swinging when they looked like they were on the ropes and you're trying to get Maikel Garcia to steal a base. And he goes first pitch swinging. You're okay with that?
I'm okay with it because he can do damage, right? And I mean, this is modern baseball. It's, no, teams are not afraid about wasting power in the leadoff spot. Obviously, Gunnar Henderson and his 37 home runs leading off for the Orioles. It would be great if we had if the Royals had an OBP guy they could put in the leadoff spot. I'd be all for it. They acquired Tommy Pham thinking he would be that guy. He had like a 250 OBP for the Royals in September. He's batting 7th now. I mean, that's the thing. The idea of it's not even so much, Massey's leading off. It's that they recognize that the Tommy Pham as leadoff hitter experiment just wasn't working. And the Bobby Witt constantly was coming to the plate with 1 out and nobody on base. So yeah, Massey, he's not the perfect guy. I would like him to be more patient. Although I will say in the leadoff spot this year, he has taken walks at a higher rate than he does lower in the lineup. So I think there is some understanding from him that, the role involves taking pitches and prioritizing getting on base over power. But he started the game with a single, and it's like with him on first base didn't work out. But like, yes, give me Maikel Massey on first base to lead off a game or lead off an inning with Witt, Pasquantino, and Salvi, coming up after him. That's the Royals' single best chance for a sustained rally for a crooked number in an inning. So I like that part of the lineup.
And so, do you see any changes?
And so, I mean, we have to talk about, are they going to continue to play MJ Melendez, in left field? Because he can't DH because Vinny needs that spot. And I want, the Hunter Renfroe was not in the lineup. Do you consider batting Hunter Renfroe? I think the reason for the lineup the way it is, and I agree, is what we've talked about, which is this ballpark is unique right now in baseball because it is so, it favors left-handed hitters or disfavors right-handed hitters so much that, I mean, that was the other great thing about Vinny back in the lineup is you had, 1, 2, 3, 4 left-handed hitters in the lineup, which is about as good as the Royals can have without putting Adam Frazier in the lineup, right? You have 4 guys who you actually belong in that lineup. And Hunter Renfroe's one of his, core skills at this point is that he does occasionally run into a fastball. But that might not work in this park. We saw it today. I mean, it's ironic that, this is the Orioles park, and yet they probably lost this game because they chose to move those fences back a couple years ago. Was it the bottom of the I think it was the bottom of the 3rd inning? Bottom of the 3rd inning with 2 outs and a man on third base. Jordan Westberg hits, a fly ball. The term is not in Baltimore, right? Because Baseball Savant has a page where they list every fly ball. It's like, would this have been a home run? How many ballparks would this fly ball have been a home run in? And an incredible number of balls hit in baseball. It's 29 out of 30, but not in Baltimore, specifically fly balls to left field. His home run or his fly out, his would-be home run was only a home run in 28 out of 30 ballparks. Apparently it was not a home run in Pittsburgh or Baltimore. But the point is, it was a home run in Kansas City. It sure as hell would have been a home run in Houston where the Royals might have been playing, right? So that's the 2-run homer. Now, Salvi hit one an inning later, but with nobody on base. His, I think, was a home run in 19 out of 30 ballparks. So, but the point is that, even if you turn both of those into home runs, now it's a 2-2 game. I mean, the Orioles lost a 1-0 game when they had a 2-run home run taken away by their ballpark. So the point is, one of the key, hidden advantages the Royals had in the series is simply Cole Ragans is left-handed. Yeah. And one of the reasons why I was optimistic and predict the Royals win the series is because the Orioles have this ballpark that really favors left-handed pitchers, and they don't have a left-handed starter on the roster. They could start, I guess, Cade Povich, but I mean, he had like an ERA of over 5 this year. So the Royals had the one lefty starter, and that's why I really like the way that, even if I'm not sure I would have gone with Sam Long, I might have gone with Daniel Litch, but I love the fact that he went to a lefty. Like, to me, no right-handed reliever on this team should face a left-handed hitter in this series unless it's Lucas Erceg. Like, there's no reason to have any right-hand. Now, if they're going to stick with a right-handed hitter, you want to bring in John Schreiber, fine. But like, there's absolutely no reason. And that's why the Royals roster on Angel Serpa instead of like Alec Marsh or something. They have 4 lefties in the bullpen. I think that's great because in this ballpark, it's like send up your right-handed pinch hitter. I don't care. You hit a 375-foot fly ball. Yeah, I don't care. And I mean, look, in the ninth inning, their cleanup hitter, Ryan Mountcastle, they pinch hit for him with Ryan O'Hearn, to get the lefty bat. Even their cleanup hitter, they were willing to pinch hit for, because they understand the best way to get a home run is to hit one to right field. And it's going to be tough to do that with the right-handed hitter.
Yeah, for sure. And you're good. What do you think the bullpen is? Let's say they get 6 from Lugo. What do you think 7, 8, 9 is tomorrow? 9 is right, even with 25 pitches.
Yeah, I mean, if they have a chance to close out the series, I would think he's good for 1 inning. I mean, and of course, if he comes out tomorrow and he's like, you know what, my arm's not bouncing back, they'll adjust. But he threw 3 straight games in Washington. He got the save in all 3. And I don't think he's pitched since then. I think today was his first day pitching. So he should be fresh. Like I said, especially with Lugo being a right-handed pitcher tomorrow, the Orioles are probably going to, start most of their left-handers. They're going to have O'Hearn in the lineup. They're not going to have him off the bench. So I go to a lefty. Whoever the first reliever is, almost certainly should be a lefty. I think Daniel Lynch should be that bridge. And I'm not afraid to use Bubic again if his arm rebounds. The question is, do you even go 6 with Lugo? Do you let him go a third time through the lineup, knowing that the 19th batter, the leadoff hitter the third time around, is Gunnar Henderson, a left-handed power hitter? If the game is close, now Lugo has 9 pitches, so the variety he has makes him less susceptible to the third time through the lineup effect, where hitters can dial in on 2 or 3 pitches. And if you look at his numbers, he's a little bit worse the third time through the lineup, but not that much worse. In fact, he's actually faced a few batters 4 times in a game, and they're 0 for 11 the 4th time through the lineup. So that's not a huge concern. But he is a right-handed pitcher. He's given up a higher OPS to left-handed hitters this season by like 100 points or so. And they're going to have a lot of left-handers at the top of that lineup. So I'm willing to go to Lynch in the 6th inning if necessary. And we know he can go 2 innings. And then, if you need like 1 or 2 batters on Serpa is great. Otherwise, Bubic and Erceg. If the game is close, that's the way I use those guys. I'm not messing around with Schreiber or Lorenzen or Brady Singer unless it's like a single batter matchup, which you have to be careful of because you have to face 3 batters in an inning. Unless it's the final out of the inning, you can take out your pitcher. So I would just go to the lefties and then Erceg to close.
Yeah, and I think that's probably going to be what the plan is. It is Seth Lugo versus Zach Eflin. You mentioned Eflin's been, kind of just a guy as a starting pitcher. His numbers are pretty good for Baltimore this year, but I know I've toyed around with when he first came up with the Phillies, thinking he was going to be something, and kicked him around in my fantasy team for several years. So I've watched him maybe closer than you would normally for someone who's come nowhere near playing in Kansas City, but there's not a lot to fear there, and that almost scares me, right? Just complacency set in.
I mean, I would hope not. I mean,
it's the playoffs. You would think
it's the playoffs. I would think. Think of the way I always think of a best of 3 like this.
Maybe scoring only 1 run today, reminds them. Listen, we gotta
be perfect. We got to be perfect, right? My optimism about tomorrow is there's essentially 2 ways the Royals can win this game, right? They can win because Seth Lugo is, on his game and pitches like Cole Ragans did today, and they don't need a lot of offense. Or they could win because Zach Eflin is, a good but not great starter, and they get 3 or 4 runs, off of him. I mean, the one thing I said fairly confidently as in our playoff preview was that if the Royals are tied or, have the game close after 6 innings, they're going to be favored. They have the better bullpen, right? And after game 1, they're going to be favored because they have the better starter. And so the fact that this is a dream outcome that Corbin Burns was Corbin Burns. They burned him. They shot their shot with their best starter and they lost that game. And now, I mean, the best pitcher the Royals are going to see the next 2 days, Keegan Aiken, who pitched today, and they got the Orioles to at least use him, is a good left-handed pitcher. But there isn't anybody on that team right now that is, an ace caliber starter or a shutdown closer. So the Royals should be able to score 3 or 4 runs in a game. And with this pitching staff right now, 3 or 4 runs should be enough. And if they don't do it tomorrow, they've got another chance on Thursday.
Yeah. I think, I'm not, nothing's a disaster. We're not firing people. I'm not calling for heads, but it will be really disappointing if they don't win the series now. Matt put that up there. Is that true that everyone who's won game 1 has won all the wild card series up till now?
I think it might be true for was it just the last 2 years, I want to say.
This is the third year of it.
Yeah. So there's been 8 series. I believe that might actually be the case. Now in 2020, remember the pandemic year, that 16 teams made the playoffs, and so there were 8 best of 3 series. And I think the team that lost game 1 did win at least a couple of those series. But I believe they put the graphic on the screen during the game. I believe it's 14 of 16.
Okay.
It's in a game, the best of 3 series, which have only existed since the 2020 pandemic. 14 of 16 game 1 winners have gone on to win. And look, mathematically, it should be 75%. It should not be 89%. And certainly as the road team, I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. The Orioles' path to victory here, to me, is simple. They have to hit some bombs. Right? There were no home runs today. And I think a game where there's no home runs favors the Royals. One thing that we really, we probably have the topic that we may not have touched on at all this season, and we were remiss to do so, is the importance of speed and stolen bases, not just in terms of the Royals being able to do so, but in the way they shut down every other team in terms of preventing stolen bases. You saw the good side of that today, obviously, which is that Maikel Garcia, who's their best base stealer by far, even if Bobby's faster, not just stealing 2 bases, but his stolen base probably led to a run. If he doesn't steal second base, Michael Massey's ground ball to second, I don't think it's a double play, and it's possible they go to first base there. But the way he hit that ground ball, the second baseman was sort of moving towards second base as he fielded it. There's a good chance they at least get the force at second. And then Bobby's single does not drive in a run. I mean, Maikel and Corbin Burns, gave up more stolen bases this season than any pitcher in baseball, I believe. He gave up 41 steals in 47 attempts, which is, crazy. So, the Royals are a very good base stealing team, specifically because they have Maikel Garcia, and then Kyle Isbell's 11 for 13, and then Dairon Blanco is one of the best sort of pinch running weapons in baseball off the bench. But the other thing is that the Royals do not give up steals at all. They gave up not just the fewest steals of any team in baseball. Get this. They gave up fewer stolen base attempts this season than any other team in baseball gave up steals. Right? In other words, if every single stolen base attempt against them had been successful, they still would have given up fewer steals than any other team. They allowed 58 steals and threw out 28 base runners. So almost exactly 1/3, 32 or 33%. The league average was 22%. Since they changed the rules to make the bags bigger and limit the number of pickoff attempts, the stolen base percentages have gone up, right? They wanted baseball, the powers that be wanted to make the steal a weapon again. Which means the ability to prevent stolen bases is also, a weapon, is also a very valuable skill. And Salvi, and especially Freddie Fermin, have been just exceptional. But it's not just the catchers. When it's that stark a difference, it's also because the pitchers themselves do a very good job of preventing the running game. And Corbin Burns being a great example of a pitcher who that is a vulnerability. The Royals, got that run on him. And then you look at the 9th inning after the Orioles got their leadoff batter on, Ryan O'Hearn. They didn't even pinch run, which, even if you're not going to steal second base, you would think they would have pinch run at least, but they don't have a Dairon Blanco. And that's another, in a close game, the Royals have some, tactical flexibility that the Orioles don't have. So that was, to me, that was a real clinic there, an example of, the Royals finding edges in a game where it turned out that edge, the ability to steal a base, might have been the difference.
I've got to get to another podcast, so let's finish with this. Do the Royals win tomorrow? Yes or no?
I'm going to say yes, because they got the better starter. And, Vinny's back. We were hopeful, but we weren't sure. And like I said, either they get a vintage Lugo start or they can score a few runs off Eflin. And if the game is close after 6 innings, I have faith that this bullpen will come through for them. And the Orioles bullpen is just, it's mortal. 1-0
Royals on a Vinnie Pasquantino home run. How's that?
I would take that. I'll take a 9-0 game with home runs from
Yeah.
all four guys at the top of the lineup, but a Vinnie Pasquantino home run to win it would be very special. And we're one win away from Armageddon, my friend. Royals Yankees.
Yeah.
Best of 5. So
let's
speak it into existence.
Yeah, we'll worry about that when it happens. How about that? We're always brought to you by our friends at GAN Asphalt and Concrete, proudly serving the greater Kansas City area. Nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor. Parking lot problems, they've been making them disappear in Kansas City since 1994. You can find them online at ganasphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. Rany, congratulations. Show number 1, postseason playoff.
We did it.
Is in the books. We'll do it again. Tomorrow is the plan. We'll figure out the time. Just be following us on Twitter, and we'll get that all figured out. Probably a little bit later tomorrow. Probably more back towards the 10 o'clock time. But for the good doctor, Rany Jazayerli, my name is Soren Petro, saying thank you very much for joining us here on Kaufman Corner.